Hi, and welcome to the Father-Daughter Experience. I'm Cesare.
And I'm Celia.
And today we're going to talk about kidulting, which is another one of those wonderful words that sounds completely made up. But like Thor once said in a movie, all words are made up.
That's so true.
Kidulting, I'm going to read the definition here because this came from an article that I was forwarded by someone. And to kidult is to recreate childhood memories by partaking in activities generally considered for children. So we're going to talk a little bit about kidulting today. I think we're both a little bit guilty of this.
I love to kidult.
Or a lot of I was about to say
or a lot of
guilty.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of things that would fall into this subgenre or this genre tend to be things that have fandoms. We've talked a little bit about fandoms in the past. They are things that, people do for entertainment. And then a lot of this, this conversation, I think, came about via the pandemic.
Sure.
Right. So we are on the tail end. There are places in the world, obviously, still experiencing remnants of the pandemic. They say it's never going to be totally gone. People are still getting COVID, obviously, in different places, but not as severe as it was before. And so this idea of kidulting came about as a way of relieving stress as an adult. And so one of the things that I think about when I think about kidulting is, for starters, are things like, I think, Lego. Right. I think Lego is one of those things that you think about for kids, but they really end up being something that adults really enjoy because it's like a puzzle, right? It's soothing. I'm guilty of this one. So that's why I started here, because one of the things I got for Christmas last year was a Lego Bird of Paradise.
Yes, Mother and I coordinated a secret pickup for you for that.
Yeah. So that is great. I actually get comments on it because it sits in the background of most of my Zoom meetings, and people are like, "Oh, is that a Bird of Paradise?" So people think it's real from a distance.
It's a very cool set.
It's well done. It took me, a little while to put it together, and it was super neat. And now I feel like, I need some other Lego plants for my office because you don't need to take care of them. You need to dust them once in a while. But this idea of this is now a display piece, right? So now these toys, these pieces that are not, are kid-ish in their quality, have these higher level versions for adults. So, a Lego play set like, Lego Spider-Man play set, right? That's one thing. But then an expensive Lego Vespa set or the designers. So for you, like when you think about kidulting, what are the things that you immediately go, oh yeah, I'm guilty of that, and here's one of those things?
Yeah, I think when we talk about in the pandemic, especially, when I was younger, I will say, for the most part, if I was like, this is something I'd like, you guys were good parents. You guys got me the things I wanted. But as I've gotten older and my fandoms have shifted and I have more dispensable income here and there, I've gotten really into like figure collecting. But specifically, like over the pandemic, I basically accumulated my entire collection of Haikyuu figurines.
And what is Haikyuu?
So Haikyuu is the volleyball anime. I am a big fan of one of the secondary character teams. So I love the main characters. They're all really good, but I like really fixated in on Alba Jose, which is one of their like rival teams.
Okay.
So I have like lots and like I have a whole little shelf in my apartment that's just like acrylic standees and little figures and like mugs and bracelets and stuff. Like anytime I see an item of like this team and it's like relatively affordable, I'll
snatch it
take that home.
So when you say figures, you're talking not like action figures, like playable characters.
No.
They're like display. Really, they're highly detailed display pieces.
Kind of. So it's like they come in like a plastic sheet, and you pop out the pieces, and then you like put them in the standee, and then they stand up.
Gotcha.
But I do also have figures. So I have my She-Ra Princess of Power figure. I've got a couple T-Rex figures from Jurassic Park. The toys, we both really like this company, Iron Studios, that makes much nicer, like high-end display figures. Those are like hundreds and hundreds of dollars.
I was going to say we haven't gone that far yet.
But someday, that's
I
like the
think
goal.
it's like I think it's like that's like
the ultimate
that's like the
kidult, I
next
think.
that's like the next echelon, right? So there are I think
There
we
are
can
levels
go,
for sure.
I was gonna say I think we can kind of touch on this a little bit. So I put this down when I read the article. I was like, oh, so what strikes me as Hasbro, which is a toy company, and they have things like the licensing for G.I. Joe and Transformers and trying to think of some others, Power Rangers. So Hasbro, a few years ago, I had seen this on some pop culture website that I was following. They created like the Hasbro like HasLab. And essentially what they did was they were like, we want to make some cool shit, but it's going to be expensive.
Yep.
And we want to make sure that if we actually go through with making this, that we sell it. So they they just basically use the whole crowdsourcing thing or
Which is
Kickstarter to say, we're going to make Slave One, which was like the ship, Boba Fett's ship from Star Wars. And I remember this being, I think, one of the first things that they did. They were like, it's going to be $300.
Sure.
And so like, that seems like a lot, but for some of these collectors, they're just like, well, if you're going to make like a not life size, but like if you're going to make
like a 1/7 scale.
Yeah, 1/12 scale version for my Star Wars action figures that can pilot this thing. Yeah, like I will put my credit card down. You can build that.
Honestly, $300 for a figure isn't that bad these days. Most of those bigger, nicer ones are upwards of $800, $900, $1,000.
Well, so this is where I was going to go. So Hasbro has these very specialized things that they do. Then they just have like regular figures,
right,
and they're just like, hey, you would buy this at Target, but you don't have to go there. You can buy it through us. We'll give you free shipping. We'll do some of this. And so like I've seen some little pieces here and there where I was like, oh, that's neat, that's unique, that's custom, that's small. Like I'd pick one of those up because like I'm the person that puts that stuff on my, when I had a desk in an office, that's the kind of thing I would put on my desk in my office. So Hasbro has this program Pulse. We live in here in Austin, and there's a company that's based here called Mondo.
Yep.
And they do tons of pop culture stuff.
Yeah.
They do pop culture installations. So they actually do things in downtown Austin. You can go and see them, and they'll put different types of artwork on display. You can go and buy them. A lot of times what they're doing is they do poster releases that are made, like other artists will do updates of older movies, like so cool. Jurassic Park, like Transformers. They'll do things like It, different movies like The Thing. They have a huge love affair with that John Carpenter movie, The Thing. But then they also do things like action figures. So you mentioned you have She-Ra. Yes. So Mondo does these releases where they're like, we're going to do this. It's a limited amount. Here's He-Man.
They have like a good like pre-order window.
They do.
So that you can get in and then they'll make them. And then.
So this goes back to what you were saying, Masters of the Universe. They had a He-Man, they had a Skeletor, and those were like $295. But you can interchange the head and the arms and the weapons. And it's like, it's this huge.
There's like 3 layers when I unboxed her that she was like stacked on top of.
And you're like, she has a cape and she has the sword and she has a headdress and she has
different hair pieces.
You can change her face. She's grimacing. Now she has a fist and you can change her arms. So now she's holding her sword. Right. So they have that. And then they have Battle Cat, which was cat that He-Man rides. And this thing is, I think we were watching a Comic-Con video from San Diego this summer and your mother was like, what is that? That is fucking cool. And so it's gone another level when your mother is just like, that's really cool. That's cool. Like so like the nerdiness kind of leaks from us and then infects your mother. And she was a girl that had My Little Pony and She-Ra. And so the newer versions of these things are appealing. And I think that's what the whole idea
of it's like it's a nostalgia, but then you're an adult and so you can be like, oh, I can afford this like way cooler version of a toy I would have wanted when I was a kid. Well, so it's like it's almost like some of these things end up maturing like with you. Like obviously I could have had like a She-Ra toy when I was younger, but now I have like a big cool She-Ra figure. Right. I could have it like a desk, like my desk in like an office.
Right. You would have that and people would be like, where did that come from? Yeah. Why do you and I don't think it gets questioned.
It's a good like talking piece.
I don't think it gets questioned as much when you have those types of things like in and around your house. No. People are just like, oh, that's a cool thing you have.
Sometimes people question a little bit when it's your whole apartment, like me.
I mean, if you go over to the corner and it literally does look like a shrine to a, an anime volleyball team and like you're saying a secondary anime team. But I think there are some other things that got mentioned that as I started thinking about it, it made me think. But the person that wrote this article talked about one of the things that where they view themselves as kidulting, which is this is a game for kids, which I would almost disagree with this, is that a game like Animal Crossing.
Sure.
The New Leaf, correct? Mm-hmm. That was the one that came out?
New Horizons.
New Horizons,
yes.
Sorry. So New Horizons came out like right at the start of the pandemic, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I bought my Switch like right when it came out.
Early, like right as lockdown was kind of starting.
But when it was still like kind of hard to get a Switch.
Correct. Yeah. So that was
So like
the side story there, right? Was
early
like
2020.
Early 2020. So Animal Crossing came out. This is a Nintendo game.
And everybody's been waiting because the
original version.
That was the next newest one since like City Life, which was the Wii game version.
Right. So there was like the original version and was really popular. And the whole idea was that it was just like this super mellow, like...
Yeah, you live in a town.
You
talk to your neighbors. You decorate your house.
Yeah,
you can do errands.
You plant trees. You can go visit your real life friends in their towns. Mm-hmm. And so, this new version came out and it coincided with the pandemic. And I think people needed
a little escapism.
They needed escapism. They needed something that was going to get them away from like the feelings of anxiety and stress and like craziness that like the outside world had. And it was like, well, I'm trapped inside. And so people got like super into it. And there's always levels, right? There's people that'll play it casually and be like, oh, I loved the old Animal Crossing game. So like now I love the new one. And then you have people, I almost fell off my chair.
Be careful.
Easy, slow down. You have people who play these games and get really super into it.
Yeah.
Right? And so for a little while,
like my grandmother, who I think has 1,400 hours in the game. Sometimes I don't even go on to play. I'll just go on to check how much my like grandmother's playtime has increased.
I like that you're just totally selling her out right now.
Yeah, it's funny. I think I've played that game for like 287 hours.
Well, I mean, it's great, but it's just one of those things.
And then like a
where
typical
it's just
like JRPG will take me like 50 hours. So it's funny to be like, I don't know.
Well, JRPG. JRPG.
A Japanese role-playing game.
Well, you have to tell people what they are. We got to be careful when you're using acronyms. People don't necessarily know. I think if you said RPG, it could be two things. It could be a role-playing game, or it could also be a rocket-propelled grenade. You would know that. You're a Fortnite person. You're one of those. They're two different things. You just got to be careful with acronyms. I'm helping out the crowd here. So anyway, continue. Lots of hours. A general role-playing game, 50 hours. Animal Crossing during a pandemic, 250 to 300 hours. Mimi, who pretty much has like a pristine everything enshrined in gold village.
That's not true. Mimi has gone like rustic.
Well,
shows what you know.
Well,
my grandmother has a rustic island now where she just farms everything and sells it for money. My island is Jurassic Park themed, and I don't really play anymore. But I do like bring people on occasion to be like, oh, you have Animal Crossing? Come look at my island. It's so cute. And then I'm like, okay, that's it, I guess.
Well, I think it's interesting. So, right. So people...
Like I'm somebody where it's like, I did what I wanted to do. I decorated my island, and then I was like, I think I'm done. I think that's enough for me.
So that's an interesting one because I think it probably saved a lot of people's sanity.
Yes.
And you could look up on YouTube like what people have done, like how they've put things together, the people that do like themes to their islands and things like that.
Absolutely.
And this is obviously absolutely like next level, and it's not 12-year-olds, right? It's not like 8 to 12-year-olds doing this. These are 20-somethings, 30-somethings, 40-somethings who are just like, no, I don't knit. I don't bake. Like this is the thing that I do that, makes me feel less insane. And I think that's the whole idea around kidulting, which is just doing something to bring back some nostalgia for you.
I think too, like also play. I feel like a lot of adults, not a lot. Oh, like a lot of my friends, I will say, I think do indulge in this, but I think I've met a lot of people who don't indulge in that. Like, you spend so much time working or like hustling or working on other things or dealing with family or whatever. I don't think a lot of people build in room for like play in their day-to-day life.
No, unless like they have like I have a weekly game night or I play D&D with my friends once a month. But
even that sometimes like involves other people. Sometimes it's just nice to be like, I'm going to sit down and like Like I bought Pokemon Scarlet because I was like, I haven't played a Pokemon game in forever, and this game looks like so cool. And yeah, there's a co-op version like where you can play with other people, and like maybe eventually I'll do that with my friends. But I'm like, I just kind of want to have this to like play for myself.
Sure.
And like that's fun. And like it is fun because you're like, oh my gosh, like it's been so long and the games are so different, and it's just fun to be like, I'm gonna wind down tonight by playing a Pokemon game.
Sure. I think that makes sense. I mean, so for me, one of the things that I really like, it's hard to do with cats, and I haven't yet invested in one of those sweet puzzle boards where you kind of have the two halves and you can stack them and keep them away from your pets. I really like puzzles.
Yes.
And so I've purchased from Mondo a handful of different puzzles, some of which I still haven't ever done. Like I have a Haunted Mansion puzzle, and I was like, I'm going to do this one around Halloween. And then Halloween comes and goes, and I haven't done the puzzle, and it seems weird to do it. I have a Die Hard puzzle that I'm like, oh, I need to take that out because it is a Christmas puzzle. So there's something that we could argue about.
That's so true.
Whether or not Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
I don't have any skin in that game.
We might have to do an episode on best Christmas movies or Christmas traditions. I think we're going to have
I love a Hallmark original.
You are obsessed with those Hallmark movies.
It's true because they're good.
But before
bad they're good.
Before I digress,
Yes.
I really do like puzzles. I do like Legos. I think it's weird for being somebody who doesn't follow rules and doesn't like instructions that Lego is like so specific around like, oh, if you're going to build this thing, these are the steps to take to build it.
The right way.
The right way. And again, the Birds of Paradise thing that I have, it's very specific. Like I would never be able to build it on my own the way it's like, I'll just figure this out. Like that's not going to happen. We have friends who have like a Disney castle, right? So this is kind of another transition, but the idea that like they have these very elaborate, very expensive, I think the Disney castle is like $500.
Yeah.
Right. It's the same as like the Death Star or the Millennium Falcon, like some of these like
the Jurassic Park gate with the T-Rex was like $300 something.
Right. One of the best videos ever is Daniel Radcliffe,
where he's like, I have it, and then he like shows the gate open and has a T-Rex.
He's like, I totally built this.
It's adorable.
He's a good kidult.
That's so true.
Representing, but the idea that falling into this is also this whole thing around. Disney adults that gets put in here. Disney adults, Marvel people. If you're super into those things, it's really like, are you weird, or are you just somebody who's like unashamedly
enjoying something?
Enjoying something.
Yeah.
Right. Well, because this article also listed adult kickball leagues.
Oh, yeah.
As being kidulting.
That's interesting.
So I'm going to ask you a question, because I know you've done not the kickball league, but something different. Where do you think the line is between, kickball is a kid's game, but volleyball is for adults?
Yeah, honestly, and it's not just with like the sport things. I feel like the second there's like an organization level to it, that becomes like a kidulting. Like it can be like you play like kickball at summer camp and like volleyball at summer camp and whatever. And like I think recreationally those can be like for any ages. But I think the second it's like we have a league and we show up for things, like that's an adult thing. Even if it's kickball or like
well, I'm saying like volleyball seems to me to be like, or basketball, right? Like maybe if they're traditional. I feel like
that person just picked like one example and said that.
No, but it made me start to think, right? Like in my mind, if you're in a rec league kind of thing, right? Like I'm going to play basketball every Wednesday and every Tuesday and Thursday night, right? Like I'm going to go after work and I'm going to play with a bunch of other guys and women in an intramural basketball league. Or I'm going to go and I'm playing beer league softball, or I'm playing in a volleyball league, right? Like at a bar, which there's a ton of those in Minnesota. There's a ton of them down here. All of those seem to me like, or like, those are like traditional sports. Those are things that I would just be like, those are like extracurriculars that like I played these sports in high school or college. I'm going to play them recreationally to get to know people. I don't view them the same way I would view someone who's like, I'm in an adult kickball league, or I'm in an adult like wiffle ball league. Like, is there a difference in your mind? Because in my mind, I feel like it's a little different.
I think
like,
it's all a little silly.
like their game, they're all silly together, you mean?
Yeah.
This idea of like, now we're forming leagues and we're taking this seriously.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with taking it seriously. I'm a competitive person, but I mean, like, in my head, there isn't a distinction, but I'm also not a big sports person. So to me, it's like, I played like flag football, but they were treating it like it was like the most serious thing in the world. And I was like, I don't think I'm cut out for this. I'm just here to like have a good time and then go get beers afterward. And that's what I was promised. And then it was like, here are our plays and here's this. And we need to have like extra practices. And I was like, I'm not going to do that.
Sure.
This isn't that serious.
You just want to show up and have like a game come together rather than being like, we have to
and just
follow
like have
rules.
fun. Right. Exactly. Well, not even follow. It's not even about the rules part. It's just that like, to me, it's just like kind of the same, unless you're in a more like intramural leagues and stuff like that. It's just like a silly, fun adult thing.
Sure.
To me, it's different if you're like obviously like trying to be like competitive to ascend to a certain like level of athleticism.
Intramural,
like beach volleyball, you could technically be a non like professional athlete and work your way into a beach league, and then if you're good enough.
Sure.
But like you can't necessarily do that with like Major League Baseball. So there are like different things, but to me, all of these like pay $60 and be in a league and get a T-shirt and drink, they're all the same.
Sure. So you're just clumping them all together, regardless.
Yeah, but
they're
it's
still like it's their
just,
kids. They're all
it's
kids'
just,
games.
It's not even that they're just kids. Anything as an adult, it's just like the same to me.
I gotcha. So I'm trying to think, with all of this in terms of the way this all goes, I think ultimately, if as an adult you find enjoyment in something, even if it is considered to be, a little childish, right? Like if you
should just enjoy it.
Well, if you've like again, you and I are into the Marvel movies. We like those. There will be times where your mother and I will rewatch we've rewatched some of like the older Disney movies, like either ones we haven't seen before or ones we haven't seen since we were kids, right? Like when maybe you had a VHS or something. Like we watched the Aristocats like a few weeks ago. And that to me would be like, okay, well, there's another version of kidulting. Like we watched that, but we also watched like 1899 on Netflix, which is just a lazy mind fuck. Don't watch it. Actually, don't waste your time and go watch Dark. We're going to go on a quick tirade here. Don't watch 1899. Watch Dark, 3 seasons. That's really great. 1899, no good. But I think you watch something like that, you watch like any of these shows on TV. Now, it's totally fine to watch shows about murder,
right,
serial killers.
That's an adult thing.
Like that's much more adult. You should absolutely, be in on that stuff. And, we did a thankful, not thankful episode for Thanksgiving, and like murder shows, like true crime, like I'm not here for it. Yeah, like, but that's considered more adult topics.
Sure.
Like no, I'd rather do the fun stuff. I agree. Read the comic books and watch the movies and do a Disney sing along and play with some Legos and then make an old fashioned and put a puzzle together.
Yeah. Like I think that's what life's all about.
Yeah, so I think if you enjoy some kids stuff, if there are things that you're just like, boy, like I do this and I know somebody that would make fun of me, hey, we're here for you. We're here to support you. Yeah, so if you're someone who, enjoys some kids stuff, you've thought about this, you've been listening to this episode, you're watching this on YouTube or listening on Spotify, like drop us a comment. Let us know, like, what is it that you think your friends and family would be like, really, you're into that? Like, that's a thing that like you're into?
Yeah, do you have something that you like doing to relieve stress that seems childish to others?
Yeah, what are those?
Let us know. What are those things?
Yeah, exactly.
We want to know.
So I think that's it. I think we're going to cut it there and hopefully you enjoyed this episode and it made you think about some things and made you not feel so bad about being a kid at heart.
That's the best way to be. As always, you can find us at FatherDaughterEXP on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, everywhere, the universe, and the Father-Daughter Experience on YouTube and wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you like us, subscribe, share, like, and comment just to boost us in the algorithm. We love you so much.
We do love you so much. We'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye.